You've seen our video covering the XLR NV Pro. In this video, we're going to see what we can do to enhance it with the weight kit. Gavin Gu here from UltimateReloader.com. That's right, you've seen the XLR NV Pro here on the channel. It is a great chassis. We've had great results with it. Used it in competition. It's awesome. But with the addition of some weights, we can fine-tune this chassis and the complete rifle as a system for our exacting requirements. Let's do a quick recap on the NV Pro. So this is a competition-oriented chassis from XLR Industries. It's highly configurable. We are kind of showing a preview of the new C6 buttstock, which has some great features. We're going to have a dedicated story on that in the coming months as it becomes publicly available. One of the things that we really liked about the NV Pro is the adjustable mag catch. That's right. Depending on which cartridge you're feeding and which magazine you're using and which action you've got, it's a great capability to be able to tune the height of the magazine so that your feeding can be optimized. I have in the past had to machine mag catches. I've had to fiddle with them, and this is just one great thing that we love about this particular chassis. So before we get into the weights, I wanted to talk a little bit about some things I've learned about weights and balance on rifles, both from my own shooting, from people that I've shot with, and then also an extended discussion with Matt over at XLR Industries. So one thing that we're seeing as a trend is that balance is becoming more critical and more of a focus area than the sheer weight of the rifle. Yes, if you weigh down your rifle, you can reduce sight picture disruption and you can concentrate better and that kind of thing. But you can accomplish a lot of that with the use of the proper compensator and by dialing the balance of the rifle accordingly. And when you're shooting off of a barricade in a positional situation, you want the rifle to naturally sit, how it needs to. So there's also variables, and these variables can change during a competition. You've got the barrel and barrel contour, the barrel length. You've got which muzzle accessory you're using, whether it be a brake or a suppressor. Typically, in a PRS competition, a shooter is going to use, one of the two. And then there's also what you're shooting off of. So with all of those different variables, including a bipod, it adds a lot of weight to the front of the rifle, especially when it's retracted. Using weights strategically can help us to optimize the rifle even mid-match. What a great capability to have. So for positional shooting, we want to be able to dial the center of gravity of the rifle so that it's between 3.5 and 5 inches ahead of the magwell. That's going to enable the rifle to sit perfectly, and then you can concentrate on the targets and not manhandling the rifle. In order to accomplish these goals, you're going to want to get a baseline weight set on the rifle with internal weights and whatnot, and then the use of external weights is going to give you the ability on the forend, specifically with M-LOK, for instance, to fine-tune that weight. So that's a really great capability to have. Okay, so what I've got here are some of the parts and pieces from the NV Pro Jake Vibert competition kit. This is a kit that you can buy. It comes with the side weights, it comes with the internal weights, the long night vision mount, which we have here. I don't know if we're going to use that because we've got a real low sitting scope here. The NV Pro long nose extension. I've actually got the long, which is 5 inches, and the short, which is 2.5 inches. And there's pros and cons there. There are a different amount of weight at a different place on the rifle. And then also with the 2.5 inch, you can usually reach your bipod, whereas with the 5 inch, it's likely you'll get it ahead of where you can reach it. So a lot of different variables here. There's also a buffer tube adjustable steel weight kick. That's tuned more towards the TR2. I've got some weights here that are going to work with the new C6. So on XLR Industries website, you can find a bunch of different weights. You can buy individual component pieces or a kit like the NV Pro JV Competition kit. Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to take this NV Pro rifle as is, and I'm going to measure a baseline on the recoil. We're going to come back and I'm going to install all the weights, and I'll kind of give you a high-level recap of how that comes together. And then we're going to shoot it again with all of the weights and use the Ultimate Reloader recoil rig to just get a quick snapshot on what effect that has on recoil. So I'm going to go take care of some of that stuff, and I'll see you in a second. So we got our baseline recoil measurement with no weights added. The rifle comes in at 17.89 pounds. Now I'm going to remove the barreled action. We'll get the internal weights in, attach the rest of the weights, go back up, get another recoil measurement with this rifle weighed down, and we'll compare the two. So I got the weights installed. It's a straightforward process. The internal weights just drop right in, and there's 2 screws on each. We put the extended nose on. This is the 5-inch. There's 3 screws. I reused the screws that were holding the default sort of flush nose on. The M-LOK weights, what I found to work well was to align the little M-LOK keys, drop it in, loosen it a little bit so they can drop down, and then tighten it, and then they swing into position and lock down. I'm also pushing forward on these, kind of like I do with scope rings, because under recoil, that's going to get the appropriate surfaces pre-engaged and touching each other so that things don't slide around. The buttstock weights are very quick to put on. There's 2 screws here for the upper and 3 screws for the lower, and those are going to be really easy, I think, to remove and replace to fine-tune the balance during a match or out in the field in general. Okay, so with all of the weights installed, I'm going to go back up. We'll get another recoil evaluation fully loaded. Then we'll come back, talk about the results. Okay, so that was interesting. I'm all done with the recoil testing. We weighed the rifle without the weights and then with the addition of the weights. And in this particular case, we went from 17.89 pounds for the complete rifle, minus bipod, because we don't have the bipod attached when we're on the recoil rig, to 23.52 pounds, which is a net increase of 31% with the weight kit. So what happened with the recoil? So brief recap on the recoil rig. We have a custom data acquisition system that we've modeled on Cal Zant's work on the Precision Rifle blog. We have proprietary software. We get 20,000 force readings per second, rearward forces at the buttstock. Very interesting to see what you can visualize in terms of recoil with this complete set of instrumentation and software. So what we saw was, get ready for it, higher peak forces with lighter weight. Exactly what I expected. And with the weights and adding 31% to the overall weight of the rifle, we saw the peak forces reduced, but then we also saw the entire event stretched out in time. So the gray here is the with weights recoil graph, and the blue line here is the recoil graph without the weight kit installed. And so we're going to lower peak forces, and we're going to spread that entire recoil event over a longer period of time, so it's going to feel more like a long push than a quick jab. And when you shoot a rifle, you can kind of visualize this in your head. You're still going to have a push, and you're still going to need a good compensator if you want minimal sight picture disruption, but it does indeed smooth out the recoil. So peak forces without the weights were 181 pounds. With the weights, we had 156 pounds, so that's a 14% reduction in peak forces with the weight kit installed. So as you can see, as we've shown in this video, we have a lot of versatility with the weights that XLR sells for the NV Pro. We can add external weights and remove them during a match. We can add weights to the buttstock and remove them during a match. And we can do a lot more with this extended forend. This is going to enable us to get the bipod a little bit further out, which is an interesting capability if you have really difficult barricades that are long. This nose is going to help with that, and it just also adds more weight. So it's a part of the whole weight kit equation, if you will. The internal weights are a little bit more to get to. It actually doesn't take that much more time to get to them. A couple action screws popped off and you're in there. They're held with 2 screws each. So basically lots of different options, and that's one of the chief benefits of a chassis system in the end, is the modularity and the configurability. So here's what I'd like to know from you. Are you shooting an Aero Hunter match? Are you shooting a PRS match? What kind of weights are you running where, and how do you change your weight configuration depending on different stages or different matches? Drop a comment and we'll start a discussion. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, make your voice heard. If you have something to say, please drop a comment. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications, because you're not going to want to miss the awesome content that is coming up. And finally, flex your reloading pride. You could look great in one of these t-shirts. We've got multiple designs at the Ultimate Reloader store. I'll see you later, because I'm off to go shooting.